Good evening, my dear followers, and thank you so much for being here every Friday, as always, at 7:30 p.m. for your favorite show, Beyond the Deal. Tonight's episode is special because I will be sharing how I managed to live and become a resident in Dubai, yes, in UAE, without needing much money, just a good strategy, and it was a dream come true. In the past, I used to charge $2,000 to help others connect with companies that let them work and live legally in Dubai. But today, by the end of this episode, you will learn how to do it yourself just by subscribing, leaving a like, and maybe dropping a comment to let me know your thoughts on what I'm about to share. Let's get started. In the last episode, I walked you through the start of my professional journey. We talked a bit about the motivations and the reasons why I decided to study science, the ups and the downs, and the sacrifices I had to make to apply and get the opportunity to study in Vladimir Lenin School of Sciences, as it's known in Cuba. And after that struggle and training, I finally got accepted into the institution. But my experience there was so tough. I couldn't recommend it to anyone. The shortages were extreme. But that wasn't what really disappointed me. So unfortunately, shortages are just like part of everyday life in Cuba, and I had always kind of adjusted to that. What really got to me was the emotional torture that I always felt. The fact that sometimes I had to sneak out of the dorms just to study. The fact that I witnessed bribery and abuses of all kinds, and what was even harder was psychologically speaking, was the way they tried to drill their doctrine into us, like trying to make us like believe in a system that was supposed to give us everything, but in reality gave us like literally nothing. So I didn't adapt, and I decided to leave that institution like immediately. So at that time I was about like 15 or 16, and I was already like really uncomfortable with what I was like experiencing in my life in Cuba. And even though I was super close to my family, I knew that if I wanted to change my reality, I would have to be willing to sacrifice being with them. I made that clear to them and time again, and thankfully my family has always supported me, so they were like ready to accept my decision if the chance to leave the country came. I remember back then in Cuba, to get online you had to go to public parks with Wi-Fi antennas or visit ETEXA's offices, and ETEXA is Cuba's only telecom company, controlled for sure by the government. So the lines to get those offices were huge, but at least I could sit in front of a computer and use the internet, though it was like pretty limited. So instead of wasting my data and time on Facebook and YouTube, I started applying through universities abroad, and I tried Harvard, Cambridge, Oxford, Yale, MIT, Complutense, University of Madrid, and I said try because every time I hit send on an application, the page would crash. So Since I never heard back, I assumed that my applications never got through. Or maybe I just didn't fit their profile. Who knows, that can happen as well. So at that time, at the same time, I remember that I was like finishing my last year of high school in Havana in a special program for students who wanted to study physics, chemistry, biology or maths. And by the way, that program was really worth it. So if you're like watching this video from Cuba, so that you know. And I remember that every time we sat down like for family dinners to eat, and we would end up like debating about leaving the country. With that idea in mind, we started like thinking about the pros and cons of living in Cuba, like what changes could come, what challenges, what new opportunities, and we began seriously considering and got creative into like planning. So after a long and exhausting journey trying to make it happen, and when we thought that we had lost everything, my mom got the opportunity to go to Mexico for a job. And I will never ever forget that day. Even though I'm pretty like strong when it comes to goodbyes, it was like hard to see her go, like knowing that I couldn't join her, and that she was heading to a country we would only heard like scary stories about. That day also our car broke down and we had to hire someone to drive us back home. So on the way back, my aunt, sister and I had our first and hopefully got our last car accident in life. And while we were like being taken to the hospital, I got a call. I remember that I got a call from my mom, and I remember myself asking the paramedics to turn off the ambulance siren for a moment so I could really like talk to my mom without her knowing what had happened, because otherwise she would come back. And that's how it went. And here I have to like really thank my whole family, my sister, my dad, my grandmas, my aunts, who were there, and a very, very good friend of ours, Raisa Rodriguez, and you literally know why. Well, we recovered from an accident, and by the way, if we ever meet in person, you may notice like a small scar on my nose, and that's the story behind. So my mom came back. She got shocked for the first days, and well, we got to spend like a week together before she left again to Mexico. One day I got a call from her saying, hey, get ready, you're coming to Mexico tomorrow. I can't share the details, but let's just say that within 24 hours my life completely changed. When we got to Mexico, I remember that we asked almost everyone that was working in the hotel where we decided to stay, like what were the best universities around the area, and all of them like they pretty much like all of them mentioned Anagua Cancun University, but at the same time that was the most expensive one. And honestly, I couldn't have like dreamed of like paying their tuition, but my mom said, hey, let's go there anyway, no problem, so you can have like an interview, and what do we have to lose? Nothing, right? So let's go there. So that's what we did. Long story short, I went there on a Friday, and I left with a study guide to take the exam on the next Monday, and it was a super intense weekend. So I took the exam on Monday, and I had to wait for 2 or 3 weeks for the results. So my mom and I decided to come back to Cuba, to go back to Cuba, and that's what we did. A month later, at one of those like famous Texas offices that I just talked about, I logged into my university profile, and there were the results, and I was shocked. I had passed the exam, and I got the opportunity of a scholarship covering over 90% of my tuition for the international tourism program focused on economics and finance with double degree one from Cancun University in Mexico and the other one from Leodan Leonel in Paris. And that was one of the happiest days of my life, though I knew it would come with some sacrifices for sure. So I said goodbye to my family in Cuba and my life in Mexico began. And it wasn't easy, to be honest. It wasn't very easy at the beginning. But well, I will cover that in other episode if you are really interested. Let's now focus on the important part. So one of my biggest dreams was to go to Dubai, and when I found out after 2 years in the university that school had internship programs there in Dubai, I didn't think it twice. But when the time came and I find out that the companies handling those programs were asking for crazy amount of money that I couldn't afford at that time, I decided to do the follows to get in Dubai. So I downloaded LinkedIn, I uploaded my profile, my CV, I made a very nice profile, and I started texting, reaching out to HR directors, hotel managers in Dubai, and I kept at it for 6 months more or less. Then one day, the manager director of one and only Royal Mirage, Rahul, gave me a call and put me in touch with the HR department of the hotel. And the rest was history. Dubai, there I go. The first 6 months in Dubai were the toughest months in my life. And just imagine that I didn't even speak English at all or fluently. And everything from communication till culture, everything was absolutely different. It was a challenge for me. But thanks to my parents and the advice of two important people to me, Gretel Garcia and Puri Carballera, I not only overcame those challenges, but ended up staying longer in the city. This time, I worked for the best hotel in the Middle East and Africa in that time, which was Bulgari Residences Dubai. That hotel didn't just change my experience in the city, it gave me a family. I met colleagues and friends I know I can count on for life. So I also met some incredible people like William Smith, Max Verstappen, the driver of F1, Red Bull driver in F1, Jacob Arabov, the CEO of Jacob & Co., Elena Likash, one of the wealthiest women in Russia, and several members of royal families from Middle East and also Africa. So another special person I met and I want to highlight was Connor McKay, a guy my age who sold the most expensive villa in Dubai at that time. So just imagine the millions, the volume in that transaction. Even though things were going great, remember that my time in Dubai was just supposed to be for an internship. So I had to make the tough decision again to leave everything and go back to Mexico to finish what I had started. So that's how I graduated and eventually decided to come to Florida, stay with my family who I hadn't spent Christmas with in 7 years, and dive into the profession that has helped me grow and truly discover myself. And of course, I'm talking about real estate. I'm a truly lover of real estate. And that brings us to the end of the second and final episode of the mini-series, Who Am I? I hope it inspires many of you to keep chasing your dreams, to push through even when the obstacles feel stronger than your will. Trust yourself, trust God, and remember, His timing is perfect. I'll see you next Friday the 25th at 7:30 p.m. so we can grow together and find out who will be the first person to be present in the Beyond the Deal experience. Until then, as I always say, I hope that everything that happens to you between now and the next time we meet is absolutely amazing. Be happy out there.